TCG Meta Slayer, what's up, everybody? What's up, TCG Meta Slayer fam, I should say. Today, I want to quickly talk about my feelings on all the different colors as well as my critical analysis. Let me just start by jumping into the most controversial thing I can probably say. I feel like the game is completely balanced. It's super fun and competitive at the same time. So I was gonna say it's both competitive and super fun at the same time. So why do I say that? I'm gonna jump around a little bit back and forth, but please hear me out. I make valid points and I'm super positive. One thing that I find funny is that I'll go online sometimes and I'll see people discussing like, oh, this color needs to be banned, this deck is broken, and this and that, and oh, this game is so, what's Bandai doing and all this. And I'll say, come on, guys, look, it's, the community has to look at the game from a different perspective. They need to play and do things more. And then people will be like, oh, this guy's always so negative and complaining. And it's like, it makes me laugh because I'm like, bro, that's literally what you're doing. And I'm just trying to be positive and say, calm down. And then, people project their negativity onto me. So just want to start by saying no negativity here. And I hope people just like chill and relax. And like I said, just enjoy the game. This game is a perfect balance, again, of being competitive, casual, and fun. And I'm here to support the game. I feel that this is the 100% best TCG out there, especially, undeniably, from Bandai and from Japan. I've played all of them. I can look at all of them again. I do still play One Piece and Digimon, which I really like. But this is definitely the best one. Union Arena is coming out, but from what I've seen, Union Arena is, it's decent. It's fine, but it's not going to be on this level. That's another video, though. We'll talk about Union Arena when that comes out. I'm still going to give it a try, obviously. So, but going back to here, I'm going to jump back and forth, like I said, and let's just say, for starters, that the elephant in the room is going to be green, followed by black. A lot of people say that green has the weakest leaders competitively. At the same time, when you do win with this deck, when you start to say, oh, well, it does put up results, then people also say, well, it takes the most effort, the most concentration, the most power. It's a grind to win with green. So two things I'll say about that. Number one, green has very strong leaders, very incredible leaders, just underrated. And then number two, the definite colors that require the most grind are easily yellow and blue, sometimes black, easily. My favorite color is yellow, followed by green, and then kind of tied with blue and red. And then black, I don't play a lot, but I still like black. I obviously have plenty of black decks. But that being said, the natural style and mechanics of blue and red, or blue and yellow, require you to play the longest, grindiest game. That's why you see them going to time a lot. It requires the most thought, strategy, being able to predict what your opponent's going to play, understanding what they can play, what they're going to play when they have, 2 energy open, 3, 4, 5 energy open, and you want to get to the late game with these colors, right? Green, to me, is a deck that is a color that overall, mechanically, can be played smoothly, and it can be an early offensive to mid game, and it still has ways to deal with a late game. So I think it's the most perfectly balanced color in that regard. I'm also going to separate it by saying that these could be the most fluid colors to play. And just because they're easy to play, it doesn't mean that they're any less weaker. Because that's another thing I hear people say, oh, we should get rid of red as a color because it's the easiest to play. It's not the easiest to play. It has definite strengths and weaknesses. If we were to compare this color pie to Magic the Gathering, because I think that's where Bandai kind of started, it's still definitely different, but they kind of started with it, is that red is obviously like the red color in Magic. And this is what you can see in basically any single Bandai card game at this point, especially in One Piece, is that red decks generally are the most aggressive, and they have a specific feature that lets them be more offensive than the other colors. So in One Piece, it's very easy. It's rush. Red has the most rush cards right now, and I'm not going to talk about One Piece. But that's why, again, red in One Piece can be the most aggressive. Doesn't mean that you can't make offensive, fast, aggressive decks with other colors. It's becoming more balanced in that regard. But in Dragon Ball, I feel that red's best ability is having the most access to critical. And it saddens me that there's been a lot of bans against critical, because eventually you're just starting to say, well, red is not going to do anything anymore, right? Because although other people can use, critical and double strike, red should have been the one to have the East Supreme Kai, sadly. So, That card is banned now, the double striker card. So that kind of card shows you what red does. Red can double strike. With that combo card, they have more access to critical. Other colors can double strike too, even without E Supreme Kai. But and don't get me wrong, I kind of miss E Supreme Kai. I almost wish like, oh, maybe they could have just errated it for red or something. And the same with the Champa. But like, I think another reason why they're phasing that card out is because a lot of new Z leaders and a lot of leaders in general are starting to get that double strike finisher end game ability, and that's cool. But I think red should always be critical. It should have good, fast, aggressive free plays, not all the time, but some archetypes can have it locked in, and also maybe combo power. And from their only defensive standpoint, they don't have many counterattacks or counter plays, but they do have the only way really to minus cards down by like permanently, well, not permanently, but negating their power so that cards can be permanently removed if it's a battle card, right? So if it's a battle card with 15,000 power, you play a red card that says give this card minus 15,000 power, it's no coming back, right? So going back to green, so basically talking about red, I think red is fine. I think that it's right now people are kind of locked on when they find a deck, especially in any color, that is easy to win with, offensive and fast. They basically just latch on and they don't look at any other color or cards in that color. So right now we're seeing that with red Sin Shenron. I think it's a fantastic deck. It's thematic, especially if you like Dragon Ball GT. It's a cool villain that should be menacing. I don't think it's the only red deck at all. People still obviously use the new Gogeta as well, which is good. But people used to put up a lot of results with Pan. People were all like, oh, I want to see the Pan reboot come back. But again, players, they talk a lot, but they don't actually play the decks or support them, sadly. So I still think there's a lot of great color. I also personally play this red Brawly for my villain deck. I'm always tweaking this, taking on the meta. And let me also say really quickly that I have so many decks. I have over 30 decks, and I have decks in every color, competitive, some a little bit more fun than others, but I still make sure that I can basically hang and beat whatever the meta is throwing at me. That's why this is TCG Meta Slayer. So I don't play this particular leader, but with these leaders here, I can currently beat every deck in the meta. I don't play the typical yellow good stuff Frieza deck that people play. I have my own little brew here, a little more thematic with Frieza. But yeah, so this is a perfect example right here of leaders that you'll never really see. I mean, obviously you see Frieza now, but very rare to see, and then like nobody plays these leaders. So I'll try to do some deck techs on these guys soon. That being said, let me take a look here really quickly. I want to say that when I play yellow, I think this is a good balance. I think yellow has some of the weakest big finishers, end game, boss cards and everything. When I'm playing blue and I get to the end game, I feel like a lot more comfortable. Same with like, green and red. But depending on the archetype, you might not have access to a big finisher all the time. There are archetypes with big finishers, but they're usually archetype locked again. So it's hard to kind of cross them over. Now blue has, again, so many great cards, especially Z battle cards that you could just throw into any blue deck. That's why we see a lot of kind of blue good stuff decks followed by yellow. But again, I think that a lot of the decks can be balanced with both archetype cards from either their actual leader, other leader packages, and generic staple cards. That'll be another video though. Black, I think is another color that like red, when people start to see the offensive power with like the Xeno SS4, SS3, Gogeta decks, they just gravitated towards that. And then when those cards started getting banned and restricted, then they just kind of backed down and they stopped playing black. We still see people playing the Supreme Kai of Time, which is almost the same thing, which takes advantage of offensive power from like being able to overwhelm, dark overwhelm, kind of like wormhole and stuff. And the Supreme Kai of Time's leader ability is phenomenal for black. It's probably the best one. That's why people play it. But there's still a lot of good black cards, leaders too, especially now that they finally got their token negate blocker. So I think that black can still be super offensive with that, what is it called? The overwhelm punch, and at the same time, you can start to, as you can see here with like Sin Shenron, you can build slower decks that are defensive and that can win mid-range to late game. They don't always have to be turn 2, turn 3 winning decks. I think we're kind of moving away from that, and that's fine. So even super fast offensive decks still take like, maybe at least 3, 4 to 5 turns to win. That's kind of good, right? So, I mean, obviously there's sometimes you can just draw the nuts and win and whatever. But anyway, so not to make this video too long, I want to stay around the 10-minute mark. So in conclusion, again, all the colors are equal. I play them. I'm super positive and supportive about this game. You don't know how many times too I've talked to people and they'll say something like, oh, this green cooler deck I built, I tried playing it against whatever, this yellow, Golden Frieza, I can't beat it. It's impossible. I would play this, but I can't beat this deck. And then I'm like, really? Have you tried like teching other cards in? Have you built a sideboard to deal with your weakness? Have you played 2 games, 10 games, 100 games against it? And then they don't really, say anything at that point. And then in the specific, this is also real. Someone told me that exact same thing. I forgot what it was, but they said that they wish that they could play the green cooler unison deck from Ultimate Squad. I mean, you can always play it for fun, but I guess they meant competitively. And then they're like saying though, but it's 100% loss against whatever deck. And then I remember like 2 weeks later, there was a regionals event online on YouTube, and some player used a green cooler deck and beat the exact same deck that's supposed to be impossible to beat on camera. And I was like, wow, you know what I mean? That's why like I don't like narrow my mind to like, oh, this is impossible. Now I know that cases can exist because over time there's a little bit of power creep, don't get me wrong, but I think that what's Dragon Ball's been doing the best at is they're allowing you to use cards from any set, so that way the meta can always change, And again, it's up to the players. And I know it's tricky because obviously as the game gets older, it's harder for people to go back and be like, oh, maybe the cards for, this is a BT1 Frieza. This deck is not really expensive to make, but maybe there are cards that are, harder to get or more expensive. So that's a consideration, right? Which means though that newer decks and cards can always still be used. We're still seeing that, but that's why I'm against rotating sets and I'm against bans as much as possible. I think that's also a lot of cards can become unbanned. Now, doesn't mean there are cards that should stay banned. I'm also okay with that, but I think the list should be a lot smaller than it is now for sure. Bandai's been doing a lot better. I also enjoy how they support old leaders. So like I can pick up a deck from last year, win with it, beat cards, meta decks. I can also buy a new deck from the new set and it's also powerful. That's the perfect balance to me. And that's why, Dragon Ball Super card game is my favorite card game. They're doing that really well. So big thumbs up to Bandai with that. So let me know in the comments below what you think. I'll leave it at that. Again, I have so many decks. I have secret rares for everything. I have like all the, the most powerful cards, and I can constantly just, all the archetype cards, all the staples, and then I can mix it with other archetypes. I can mix it with all the good stuff. So I'm always tweaking my decks, like I said, to take on the new competition. So, thematically, that's kind of the way it is, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to play Broly, and then I'll play Broly, and then I'll look at like, oh, okay, what are the tough decks to beat? I'll play casually, whatever, and it's always fun thematically to go up against, Gogeta or something. But if I look at players who are playing competitively and they have all the meta decks, and I'll try it out, and then I'll learn and say, okay, if I beat it, awesome. If I don't, what could I have done differently? Was it just the luck of the draw? Could I maybe tech certain cards on my sideboard to defeat that deck if it's a weakness? And that's how I play and enjoy all my decks, because I know that, further play testing, that it's very possible to basically win any game, right? And again, you have a tournament with 100 decks. If you say like 50% of the field is green, then I guarantee you're going to see almost all green decks, probably top 8, win the tournament, whatever. The way things are right now, the reason why these colors look weak is because, like I mentioned, the community doesn't want to play the colors because they have misconceptions, and they only play like one type, and then now, everyone just wants to play the, the good stuff, blue and yellow deck. So of course you'll keep seeing these put up results, and even when someone, comes out of the woodworks with a green deck, it doesn't mean still that people are going to latch on and start playing green, right? They'll probably still keep playing these decks, whatever. So regardless, I think the meta is healthy. I think the community can just, do a little better in terms of diversifying the types of colors and leaders that are out there. And I also know at the end of the day too, you got to play what you like, right? Like if, for example, Golden Frieza became the most powerful deck for a long time, if you like playing villainous Frieza, then by all means do it, shine in that era. But also, play other cards and other decks. You know, because I know there's people out there who do support their leaders or their colors that they enjoy. So that's always a good thing, guys. All right, don't forget, if you like what you're seeing and you want to have some more discussions, I'm also gonna, you know, start doing some more deck tech on Dragon Ball. And like I said, I play a lot of One Piece, Digimon, Flesh and Blood, and I play Magic the Gathering Commander. So it's gonna be a mix of those card games. And you know, I'll always maybe take a look at other card games for a little bit that, you know, are interesting or maybe that come from Bandai. You know, let me know. All right, guys, like and subscribe. Don't forget. Thanks so much for you know, watching the video, and keep your faith, say a prayer, spread that love, be positive, be thankful. We'll be coming back at you. Peace.